Hello and welcome to the Catch a Lift Coaches Corner. I am Cal Coach and Program Director Melissa, and this week I'm honored to welcome Stephanie Sanchez to the show. Stephanie is an actress, U.S. Navy veteran, Cal veteran athlete, and so very much more. Welcome to this week's episode of the Coaches Corner. Stephanie, welcome.
Thank you, Melissa. I was so excited that I was trying to bust in on your spot there.
Oh my gosh. Well, we've been so excited to talk to you. Let's jump right into it.
Yeah.
Stephanie, why don't we start today by you talking to us a little bit about your life growing up and what would ultimately lead you to the military?
Sure. Well, I grew up raised by a single mom, and I went to an all-girls Catholic school. And my junior year of high school, I was dating a guy who was a senior, and he was going to the Naval Academy. And I was like, Naval Academy, what is this? I've only read about Annapolis in like my history books. It was so
Right.
Annapolis was so far away from Southern California where I grew up. And so it started to intrigue me, especially because he wasn't a military type. He was very laid back. He played golf. He was a surfer. And I think I've always been a little competitive too. And so I started researching Annapolis, and it started to really appeal to me. And I also had this competitive nature of like, well, if he can do it, like, let me see if I can do it. And it wasn't about, him or trying to go to school with him. It was more like the suggestion came to mind. And I think my 17-year-old ego just wanted to see what I was made of. So I
Right.
think I got that, I guess, invitation to challenge myself, and I couldn't let it go. Like, I ended up visiting the Naval Academy my senior year of high school, and I was just so impressed with the women. And it's strange because what impressed me was them getting yelled at and them like yelling back. But it was something about their courage and their strength that they were showing that it's like I wanted to be able to do that. I wanted to see what I was made of. I wanted to see if I could do that. So it was something about, and then not only that, but the like esprit de corps and the kind of uniformity of it and being part of a team. Like
Right.
I danced as a kid. I never played sports, so I was never part of that kind of um I guess, group mentality. And something about the group mentality, the esprit de corps, and even the masculine energy appealed to me because I had, been raised by a mom. And even though I say she's a woman, I mean, to just for her to be mother and father and provider, she was
Right.
using her masculine.
For sure.
But I had been surrounded by women at an all girls school. Um, and I think something about that masculine energy appealed to me. Like, I wanted to, like, I guess, not consciously at the time, step into that, like, that leadership, that roar, that, my own masculinity, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that with us. That's really interesting. So, would this kind of change your, like you said, you started thinking about this kind of as a junior in high school. Would this kind of change your trajectory of your senior year and how you approached it, knowing that, you had this interest in pursuing?
It did, in that it simplified it.
Okay.
Because I have to admit, when I was a junior in high school, I didn't have like a dream school. I didn't have a plan of what I was going to do, when I grow up. Um, and so it gave me direction. I had always been achievement oriented. I'd always worked hard in school and got good grades, but I didn't really know what I wanted to do. So it's like once I made that decision, it made deciding where to go to school and what was going to happen next more simple.
That makes sense. So what would come next, Stephanie? Where would you go to school, and what would that look like for you?
I went to the University of Notre Dame in South Bend, Indiana, and I did Navy ROTC there.
Terrific. Talk to us a little bit about, your time at ROTC and the opportunities that provided you with.
Sure. Well, first of all, I ended up choosing ROTC even though I got into the Naval Academy which was quite an accomplishment in and of itself, because you have
Right.
to get a congressional nomination.
Yeah, that's huge. Right.
You have to meet with a bunch of ring knockers, like alumni. And so, I went before a board of alumni, and when I got out, they all like shook hands with my mom and said, "You should be proud of her." And there was something really validating about having all these grown men say that to my mother,
I bet.
both for me and out of like empathy for my mom. Because in a way, she was being congratulated. But I ended up choosing ROTC because I wasn't certain about a future in the military, and
Okay.
and I think I wanted to hedge my bets a little. So I was thinking, well, if I go to the Naval Academy and it doesn't work out, meaning like it's not right for me, I don't want to have to switch schools. Not that that would have been wrong, but at the time it seemed like too dramatic for me.
Yeah.
I was thinking, I'd rather pick a school, go to that school, and then I can do ROTC and, see how that is and kind of get the best of both worlds.
Yeah.
For some reason, it doesn't feel right to me. I can still stay at the school and keep, hanging with my friends and everything like that. I kind of liked like having that middle ground. And as far as opportunities, is that what you asked?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it gave me an automatic community, and as soon as I started, because we in the ROTC unit got there before school started and did our own like boot camp and our own like bonding
Right.
through just going through different obstacles and challenges together. And so I had that small group of midshipmen at Notre Dame that were it was kind of like a club I belonged to. And actually, my best friend in the whole world to this day is from my ROTC unit. She's she's like my soul sister. And
Oh,
so
how cool.
she's one of the greatest gifts that came out of Notre Dame's Navy ROTC unit.
Yeah.
And,
Very
it also
cool.
gave me a sense of pride because, I'd wear my uniform on campus and people thought it was cool, especially other young women thought it was
Right.
cool, like I was doing something. And so it gave me a sense of pride to wear my uniform and to have a thing that I was doing. There's like varsity athletes, and is it varsity in college? I don't know. It's not varsity in college. Whatever it is, big time athletes,
Yeah.
one athletes, not varsity. There's like these great athletes and, student government. And it was something, I had something, that I belonged to.
Stephanie, what would you study when you were at Notre Dame?
Initially I studied pre-med because I was interested in doing something, not specifically be a doctor, but like physical therapy or maybe sports medicine. And then ultimately, I switched to psychology because there wasn't a specific hybrid major, and the pre med major was very much people that wanted to go to med school. And it just became a little too competitive for my taste. Like, I was doing really well, but I was giving up weekends to study, and people were keeping track of my grades. And I was like, I'm not trying to get into med school, and I'm going in the Navy for sure when I graduate.
Yeah.
So let me just study something I'm interested in. So I've always loved human behavior and been curious about the way that we work. So psychology was a natural fit. And I would say maybe one of the first decisions that I made in my life that was based on doing what I want and not feeling like, I should do this. Or, as a kid, you are always being governed, like do your homework,
Yeah.
clean your room, go to school. And so it takes a while as you're becoming an adult to realize that you can decide the course of your life. So that was a
Right.
real big turning point for me, going, I don't have to push myself this hard for no reason, because there are parts of me that would have thought, well, if you change majors from pre-med, you're quitting. No, I'm not going to be a doctor. So why should I
Right. Yeah.
do this? And I like psychology. And then when I switched majors, it was like this, like realized I had this freedom I hadn't realized that I had, like you can
Yeah.
decide your life, you know?
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah,
Very cool. Stephanie, what year would it be that you would graduate from Notre Dame?
2001.
2001. So let's talk about 2001. So 9/11 obviously happened that year. Um, so you started, at Notre Dame, ROTC. We hadn't started yet up the global war on terrors. Would you talk to us a little bit about 9/11 and how that would kind of change, either your career trajectory or just how that changed the culture that you were in at that time?
Yeah. When I graduated from Notre Dame, I got my commission from the University of Notre Dame. We had our commissioning ceremony. Um, and I remember there was a reception after, and a few of the graduates from the previous year who were now in the Navy were at our little reception, and they were talking about, oh, you're gonna love it. It's like a pleasure cruise. You're just training, but every 2 weeks you get to stop in a port and had so fun. Da da da. So I'm thinking like, a pleasure cruise with some work.
Yeah.
Um, and then I went to the Surface Warfare Officer School, which is basically ship school
Okay.
and like flight school, but for ships. And I started there in September. And the day that my stuff came, like I had a little military move from my few things in California to Newport, Rhode Island, where I was. The movers busted in and were like, turn on the TV, turn on the TV. This is before social media. So
Yeah.
unless you sought out like local news, you didn't know
Yeah.
what was
Right.
happening. And so I turned on my TV and I saw, one of the planes hit the towers, and I really didn't know what I was seeing.
Yeah.
I just knew like it seemed odd, wrong, off, but like I really didn't know what I was seeing. And as the news progressed, I took it in, and there was just like this great unknown, and then also fear, and not like specifically me being in the military, but fear of like what could happen next. Is my family safe?
Right.
Are they going to strike again somewhere else? And this sort of like false security that we'd had for my entire life
For
was
sure.
suddenly blown up into the realization that we're never really safe, that anything could happen anytime. And so I was grappling with that. I was grappling with, obviously they had canceled any classes or anything for that day. And my best friend Elizabeth, who I mentioned in ROTC, she was in Newport, Rhode Island at the time. So I met up with her and another girl, and we just kind of went for a walk with her dad, who at the time was in the Marine Corps. And we really were it was almost like, it felt almost apocalyptic, even though like Newport, Rhode Island, everything looked okay. It was like we didn't know what was going to happen next for us. There was definitely an uncertainty about our own future. There was this kind of ominous feeling of, okay, now we're at war, and how that wasn't even a term we grew up with. It was like war was something we learned about in the history books, and
Oh,
yes,
100% right.
yeah, there was a short Gulf War, before that,
Yeah.
but it wasn't. It came and went so quickly.
Yeah.
So war seemed like a distant thing, and then the fact that like, oh shit, am I allowed to say shit?
Yeah.
Like we are going to war.
Yeah.
Like this little lady and this little lady, you know what I mean? Like not ever really
Yep.
thinking of ourselves as like, whatever, warriors in that sense, just like being like, I'm an officer in the Navy, but not really thinking like ever in my life that I would go to war. Like it was a fluke that I even joined the Navy. I just wanted to do a marathon. You know what I mean? And no, to war. So it was definitely like unnerving, and there's just this big, great chasm of unknown and
Yeah.
uncertainty. And I think everyone in the country, and maybe the world,
Yeah.
felt that way at that time. And it was definitely like there was a very quick getting on board with that as
Yeah.
my future. It was very quick. Like there wasn't like really any resistance.
Yeah.
It was just because as soon as we did go back to base where we were studying, there were sandbags everywhere, there was extra protection, things were being screened,
Yeah.
and so yeah, and I had heard that the ship that I was attached to was being surge deployed immediately to the Gulf. So, it changed everything. And maybe I'm jumping ahead of the interview, but
No, you're good. You're good. Go. Go.
when I did end up getting to my ship, they were deployed in the Gulf, so I was helicoptered and dropped on the ship, and I ended up doing 3 deployments in my 4.5 years in the Navy because this was a, you know, getting all our resources to the Gulf period, all
Right.
hands on deck, show of force time.
Yes.
And so I did not have any pleasure cruises. I had surge deployments, meaning like every deployment was not scheduled. It was just like, oh, we need more assets. So like there between my first 2 deployments, I had 6 months. So I did like a 6-month deployment, came back, got an apartment, started dating a guy, and then oh, we're deploying? Oh, bye. I guess we're not really doing this because it wasn't that serious yet.
Yeah.
So don't forget about me. Bye. And then pack up my apartment like, like a Disney cartoon. And then
Yeah.
get on the ship. Um, yeah, it was craziness. And then, the actual time on ship was we had a mission. We weren't training, we had a mission. And
Right.
so, the command climate was serious. And the you know the working hours were long and intense, and it was stressful. And yeah, it was very different from the picture that was painted at my graduation.
Wow. No kidding. No
Yeah.
kidding. Right. So, first of all, Stephanie, thank you so very much for your service to our great country. And like you mentioned, so in 4.5 years, 3 deployments, that's absolutely incredible. Would you talk to us a little bit about those deployments? Where were you guys deploying? And, talk to us a little bit, like you said, this wasn't training. This was, there was a mission. What was your mission on those deployments?
Sure. So, my first deployment was in support of Operation Enduring Freedom in Afghanistan. And my entire service, I was on amphibious carriers. So they're basically like, the carrier in Top Gun, but for Marine aircraft.
Okay.
So a
Okay.
large ship that carries Marine helicopters, the Harriers, their tanks, their trucks. So we were like a high value unit, Marine Corps support ship, which is exactly what I signed up for. When I graduated, I wanted to work with Marines on that type
Okay.
of ship. I didn't know we'd be at war, but that was what I chose, was
Right.
Marines. So that was nice because that's what I wanted. Um, so the first deployment was getting Marines out to Afghanistan, providing them supplies, shipping supplies out there, and providing the basically airport in our flight deck for their aircraft, and refueling, and um, whatever you know ammunition they might need. We would reload. And so it was supporting Marine operations. And we were very much a support ship as opposed to a combatant, meaning our job wasn't to stick to park offshore and shoot guns like some of the smaller ships have giant guns and they provide that support.
Right.
We were more of a logistical support uh, asset. And
Okay.
then my second deployment and third deployment were in support of Operation Iraqi Freedom. So we were not far off the coast of Iraq. And my second deployment, we were a Harrier carrier, one of 2, and our entire mission while we were in the Gulf was to launch Harriers off our flight deck and have them conduct sortie missions and drop bombs. And so they
Yeah.
were dropping like actual bombs and then also dummy bombs, which I found out are just big cement pieces. And I was like, cement? So it's just like a fake bomb? What does that do? And then someone's like, well, it's a giant thing of cement. And I was like, oh, so it would crush things. You know what I mean? You don't necessarily think when you think of a
That's
bomb,
it, right.
a big piece of cement, but that would do a lot of damage from like high up in the air, you know?
For
So
sure.
my second deployment, that was our mission, was
Okay.
to support the Harriers, you know, and their sorties. And then my third deployment, I was on a large deck amphib again, but I was part of a Marine Corps general's staff. And this was the very first time that a Marine Corps general was in charge of a group of Navy ships in the history of the Marine Corps or the Navy. So that was kind
Really?
of exciting to be, yeah, the part of the first
Yeah.
flag staff of this kind. It was the first time a Marine was in charge of Navy ships. And so our staff was a combination of Marine officers and Navy officers, so that we could, you know, speak both languages. And it made so much sense because you have, you know, your naval officers who know ships and know Navy assets, and you have your Marine officers who know infantry and know what Marines need and Marine supplies. So it
Right.
made so much sense for us to work together. And so on that ship, we were more of a support ship, like just getting tanks and trucks and Marines out there and the ship itself. And then my job at that time was to support the general, who was basically the bird's eye view of all the ships, the Marine Expeditionary Unit, which is like all the actual ground troops, and the small ships that we had in our expeditionary strike group. So we had a cruiser destroyer, and, you know, I think 3 amphibious ships. So our Marine, why am I? General Medina, he, you know, was in charge of all of these assets, all the aircraft. And then we would help him, we would fill in the gaps of Navy expertise where he needed it, just like someone briefing the president. You know, we were
Right.
the president's staff, but this Marine general staff.
Oh, that's incredible. That's
Yeah.
incredible.
It was great to have that super operational point of view.
I'm sure that had to just be fascinating to
Yeah,
experience that. And especially like, you know, you'd had these two deployments before. So like that's a really neat way to kind of bookend the end of that. That's really
totally.
cool.
Yeah, and I have to admit it was easier.
Was it?
Being on staff is easier because when I was ship's company, I had all these sailors I was in charge of. I had, you know, millions of dollars of equipment that I had to supervise and
Yeah.
people they're maintaining. I had 6-hour watches on the bridge, actually driving and controlling the ship. On staff, I just had my operational area of responsibility. Let me make some PowerPoint presentations. Let me do some research. But for the most part, I had some working hours, which was
Yeah.
like, I mean, I was living a life of luxury as far as I was concerned. Because when I was ship's company, I would get like 3 hours of sleep because I was basically working 3 jobs, you know. And when I was staff, it was like, you know, I didn't have sailors that I was in charge of. I didn't have the equipment that I was in charge of. It was more of a operational, you know, I would say more of an intellectual job.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah,
that makes sense.
important and a lot of responsibility, but
Right.
allowed for a full night's sleep.
Oh, I bet that was nice.
Yeah, it was really nice. It was really
So
nice.
talk to us a little bit more about that kind of Stephanie. Like, what is it like to live on a ship? What is the culture of a ship and ship life like?
That's a really good question. Okay, well, living on a ship, especially when you are ship's company, meaning your responsibility is aspects and people on the ship, um, you live at work. And so it's not just like you're sleeping in the office for the weekend. You could be called upon at any time, any moment, and you don't get to say it's your day off because you don't have a day off. So it can be very exhausting. on Sundays we have like a Sunday routine, which is there's less meetings if they can, less they try to schedule less, so it's kind of like a day of rest. Um, but as a surface warfare officer, meaning someone who would is being groomed for command at sea, I always had 6 hours of watch on the bridge because that ship steaming doesn't happen on autopilot. There's always some junior officers on the bridge making sure we don't run into anything, carrying out whatever, if you need to meet with another ship, if you need to get closer to land to get the marine supplies, getting winds over the deck so the Harriers can launch. There's just, someone always has to be at the helm or on the bridge making
Right.
it happen. So, every day I'd have watch, and then pretty much most days there'd be things to react to, anywhere from like just regular maintenance, making sure my guys and girls were maintaining equipment, to emergencies. One time our chemical alarm went off, and something was released into the air while we were in the Persian Gulf. So we all had to go to general quarters, which is like emergency battle stations, put on our gas masks. And then from that point on, we had to like keep the gas masks on our person because we didn't know what else might happen. So things always happen. Sometimes there's unknown drills, meaning like even when we're operating on a mission, there's still drills to make sure you're sharp. So you could be
Okay.
like, I'm going to squeeze in a nap. And then they call general quarters as a drill, which is when you go to battle stations. Like, you have to get up and go to your battle station. And, even when you're just trying to get your 20 minutes of sleep or whatever, or, I might be preparing a PowerPoint presentation because we have something special going on, like a refueling, which is a major operation on a ship because you get within 200 yards of another ship, which is super dangerous because you've got two high value units super close together. And you've got a thing called the Venturi effect. When you're this close, it could vacuum and they could collide. So you have to be close enough so that you can stretch your fueling lines across, but not too close that you get sucked in. So when we do things like that, there'd be like a brief with the captain the night before. And so
Right.
it was maintenance. It was also managing personnel, and my guys and girls were troublemakers. I had, one girl who insisted that she was a werewolf, so I just went with it.
Jeez.
I had one guy who ended up taking an axe to a door because his girlfriend got together with a Marine.
Oh,
He was
jeez.
trying to get into the door, and I had, and he was actually a very good sailor. So I think though, matters of the heart turn people insane.
Oh yeah. Yep. That'll
Like,
do
you
it.
stand by him. He's still in the Navy, actually. He's a warrant officer now.
Oh,
I'm so
nice.
proud of him because, yeah, he was a very good sailor. He just had a moment of insanity. But all kinds of things happen, and as their junior or as their division officer, I'm responsible because those are my girls and guys. So I have to stand before the captain and speak on their
Yep.
behalf. I have to fill out the paperwork. I have to counsel them. And so, it's managing people, it's managing equipment, it's drills, it's my bridge watch, and I would say the places we found relief was in the wardroom with the other officers, having coffee, eating our meal. We didn't really eat healthy, but when you're stuck on a ship, there's not a lot of comforts. You
Sure.
can't just go to the store. You're kind of marooned on a little steel island. So we took pleasure in what we could, which was like food, an occasional movie night, an occasional Steel Beach picnic, which basically it's like where everyone gets on the flight deck and gets to socialize, and they cook burgers and hot dogs, and
Nice. Yeah.
we get sunburned,
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know if that answers it, but a
Yeah.
lot of
No.
talking.
Thank you for telling us about that. Looking back at your naval career, Stephanie, what are you most proud of?
I'm most proud of being unstoppable, unsinkable, unbreakable. My very first deployment was harder than I could have ever anticipated. I had the captain at that time was a horror, basically. Like even in my at my young age of 23 at that time, I could see that the way he was conducting business was against the rules. But it wasn't like there was no Instagram to, share.
Yeah.
If I were to try to take action to report, I had no credibility as a brand new officer, so it was just, I think that's how the military has always been in those situations. If you have a bad
Right.
leader, you're just out of luck. And sometimes you have a great leader.
Yeah. Yep.
And unfortunately, my department head was really rough as well. And my fellow junior officers that were supposed to be training me on the bridge were also not helpful. Like they wouldn't train me. And one guy even sabotaged me. He gave me false information
Oh my
so that when
gosh.
the senior officer quizzed me, I just shared what this guy had told me. And the senior officer said, no, that's not right. And the guy that had just told me this was like, I don't know where she got that information. So I was like made out to look stupid and
Right.
or not prepared. And I was trying to move as quickly as I could. And I was working through qualifications. And this guy that had sabotaged me, he called me Rah Sanchez. Like, why are you so gung ho? Why are you so? And then I think it hurt his male ego. That because he told two guys that were just had gotten on the ship a little before me, she's making you look bad because I had gotten through some qualifications before them. So he was actually trying to slow me down and like purposely make me look bad. Well, at that first command, that guy failed his SWO board, the where you get your pin, twice and got a third time, and they finally gave it to him. I answered every single question right on my SWO board. I didn't get any help. I had to look everything up myself because I couldn't rely on my fellow junior officers. I went and sat with each enlisted person and learned it from an operator point of view. So most officers would learn like general definitions or just answer the question, like that might be on the
Right.
for me, I sat at the control panel and like learned everything about each aircraft, everything about each, fire control system, everything about admin and how you fill out forms.
Yeah.
When it came to my board, I just answered everything, answered. And even my CO at the time, who had been, and this was a nice CO that they had a change of command. But when I got my SWO board, which is Surface Warfare Officer, it's your ship pin, like aviators get wings.
Okay.
When it came time for that, like I was able to answer all the questions about his SH-60 Bravo helicopters, and my XO wrote me an email that said, "Damn, I'm proud of you," which is like was just that's like one of those
It's,
moments you'll never
oh
forget.
my gosh. Yeah, that had to hit you right in the heart. Oh
It
my
did.
gosh.
Like I'll
Yeah.
never forget. And I forwarded it to my mom, and so I'm just most proud. And then my captain made me the officer of the deck during general quarters, which means I'm in charge of the ship when in an emergency situation. So I was like the go-to person, like, and
That's awesome.
I always think of this saying that my high school geometry teacher told me. She said, "The cream always rises to the top."
Yeah.
And so, and I found that to be true. Like sometimes people can't see you, but over time, everything kind of
Yes.
it comes clear,
It's so true. Yeah. Wow. Thank you for talking to us about that, Stephanie.
Mhm.
And again, thank you so much for your service to our great country. Let's talk a little bit about what it was like to get out of the Navy and kind of transition back into civilian life. What did that look like for you?
Um, where to start? Well, on my last deployment, since I was, living that great staff life, I had some time to sort of explore that because here we are at sea. I had a little time in the evening. So I was reading books on, finding your purpose, and
Yep.
used that time to kind of figure out what my calling was, what I'm good at. I actually took some aptitude tests, which like timed aptitude tests in like, uh, I don't know, mechanical, mathematics, clerical, which clerical sounds boring, but it's actually like attention to detail. So it's
Okay.
good for coding, detectives, like someone who just is real. I scored highest in clerical. That's why I remember that. And it comes out in different ways. And then I also scored really high in whatever the social interpersonal. I did not even finish the mechanical and mathematical tests, which was, I could have told you that going in.
I could have told you.
Like, and I spent my time learning, like, and I didn't even, oh, I'm not good at that? I never knew.
Yeah.
Well, I guess I'm not gonna be an engineer. So then when I looked at the careers that correlated with my skill set, it was very much like social services or creative. And I had been interested, I'd been leaning towards doing something like journalism or acting, and but those also were so different from being in the military. So I took this aptitude test just to kind of confirm my predisposition towards a career. But those journalism and acting were both in the groups of, you go to the end of the book and you see what your strengths are and what correlates.
Yeah.
So and then I ended up taking some junior college courses. Even though I was a college graduate, I went back and took some junior college classes to just sort of feel things out. So I took an acting class, I took a journalism class, I interned at a news radio station, I interned at
Oh, cool.
TV station while I was still in the Navy. This is like once we came back from deployment, I was
Okay.
in the Navy, and then in the evenings I would intern at like the NBC affiliate in San Diego. And I decided I was going to pursue journalism. And at the time when I first was exploring, I was told by other newscasters, well, you need a degree in journalism or you need a master's in journalism. And I was like, I don't want to go. I already went to college. Like, can I just learn on the job? So I ended up doing the internship, and I ended up getting hired as a associate producer, like right after I got out of the Navy, and then putting together my resume tape, which is just me on camera being a news reporter. And I got a job in Tucson, Arizona, a few months after I got out of the Navy as an on-air news reporter, without going to journalism school. So,
heck yeah, that's awesome.
that's another thing I'm proud of, is not, you don't always have to take people's advice. I think you can follow your own intuition.
Yes.
Because I think that the reality is college degrees in some ways are a piece of paper. They teach you how to think. They teach you how to time manage. They teach you how to organize your thoughts. But sitting in a classroom learning about something theoretically is not the same as learning on the job.
For sure.
And I think I knew that intuitively. So I just got into these internships and was working at the place that I would want to be working, and then enough to be, get a job.
So how long would you be in Tucson?
I was in Tucson 2 years, and I was a field reporter. So, out on location reporting live. And I enjoyed it, and I enjoyed being part of the local community and really knowing, like having an ear to the ground and knowing what was going on. Like, it was probably the most informed I've ever been, and the most
I'm sure.
for my local community. Like I'd go to like Trader Joe's, and like there was this lady in front of me, and she's like, "Oh yeah, like I saw you this morning," and I was like, "No, you didn't, because I was by myself before." And then I was like, "Oh, she's news." Like, it was just be funny, like, "Oh, people see me." It was kind of like, it was sort of neat. I was, I really felt connected to the community, but ultimately, the job was a little bit political, because part of the job is getting ratings and getting viewers, and you have to get the story, even if that means shoving a microphone in someone's face that may have just gone through a tragedy. And I just didn't love that. And then also, my mom was diagnosed with cancer and she was in California. So I decided since I was kind of feeling like I wasn't enjoying my news career as much as I would want to, and my mom was sick, that I really wanted to head home. And I always wanted to try acting. So it was like the time to do it. Like it was kind of like,
Right.
okay, well, I want to be with my mom and I'm okay leaving this job behind. Let's give this acting a try.
Was it scary for you to step away from the news job and like to take that step like I'm going to do this now. I'm going to act.
Um, it wasn't so scary to move to LA because I had family here, but I think the hardest part was, in a sense, quitting, meaning like telling the people at the news station, I quit. And I quit before my contract was up. And so they had to let me out of a contract. But I mean, they really didn't have much of a case in how I wanted to be close to my mom. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it
For
really
sure.
wasn't, they
Yeah.
tried to kind of waive the contract and I was like, I
Yeah.
need to be with my mother. So that was hard just because I do have some people pleasing tendencies. Um, and, but I think I was more excited than scared because it was like, I had already tried the news reporting
Yeah.
and I didn't feel like it was completely in alignment with who I am in that, uh, I think it's an important job, but it felt very, I felt like I couldn't fully share all I have to
Yeah.
give. Like it felt very confined.
It makes sense.
I'm a
Yeah.
narrator, and here's what's going on. And I felt like
Yeah.
I was acting as a news reporter. Like I didn't really feel like oftentimes like behind the camera, I'd just be like, and then I was like, now time to report. So I always felt like I was acting anyway. And so I
Yeah.
thought, might as well try this acting finally. Like I wanted to do it my whole
Yeah.
life. And so I went for it.
What stands out to you the most about those early days acting in LA?
What stands out to me? I was the opposite of jaded. I just had so much courage, probably more courage than I have now, because I think what happens is you start to know better, and being ignorant
Yeah.
is kind of a blessing. Like I saw Matthew Perry at the gym a couple of times, and I like I was walking out, he was walking in, and I held my hand up to like high five him, not premeditated, but then it was up. And as it was up and he was approaching, I was like, okay, now I don't know what to do. That was weird. I'll just hold it up. I'll just keep holding it up. And then he high-fived me, like, but with like a weird look. He goes, how are you?
Love
And
it.
I said, like, I was just like, I'm good. How are you, Matt? Um, and then I saw him at another later date, like, a few days later. And I said, oh, I'm sorry. I was being weird. You don't actually know me. I just was excited to see you. And then I did the same thing. Well, not the same thing, but I was temping at Showtime, as like, a side job, uh, very early on when I first got here, and Damon Wayans was in the lobby, and I was a big fan of his growing up on In Living
Yeah.
Color, and I was
Oh,
in the
I was
copy
too. Yeah.
yeah, I was in the copy room, and someone said, "Oh, Damon Wayans is in the lobby," and I was like, "The real Damon Wayans?" Like there's some fake Damon Wayans, right?
Yeah.
And so I was like, and I was a temp, right? So I have no business doing anything. But then I almost floated out there like those cartoons when they smell a pie.
Yeah.
It wasn't even it was out of my control. Someone said Damon Wayans, and it was like I just
Yeah.
lifted
Just.
went out to the lobby, and I'm like shaking hands with him and his producers.
That's
I'm a temp.
awesome.
And then when I was just like, how's it going? What are you guys doing here? And then he said, oh, like we're trying to pitch a show. Like, what are you doing? And I said, oh, I'm temping for like the head of finance. And he's like, oh, maybe you can get us some money. And then and I said, maybe I can work for you. I actually said that to him, and he said, and I was like, I have my resume in my backpack. Like I really did. I
Oh my
had it.
gosh, I love it. Like, talk about bravery. Yeah, I'm like, holy
And then
shit.
he points to his producer, and she's like, yeah. So I went and grabbed my resume, gave it to his producer, and I ended up staying in touch with his producer for a while. Nothing ever happened, but and then I ended up having a meeting with HR for harassing him, which I think there was a front desk lady watching the whole time, and I think she was probably like bitter or jealous because
Yeah, she would. Yeah.
clearly they were not upset with me.
Right.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
She had her own stuff.
Yeah, and so she reported me to HR, and I of course apologized, but I was just so excited to see him,
Yeah.
but again, I don't think I would do that now because I know better, but I kind of love that I was just so, I had such gumption, and I was
That's
so
cool. Yeah.
excited, to make something happen.
Yeah. That's really cool. I love that because that is total bravery, and I think like you said in the beginning, there is something to be said for having that, like, um, right on, if you call it naivety or what it is on the front end, but right, like that can really work in a person's favor.
Well,
That's
there's a purity to it.
Yeah, yes, exactly. Like, because when you said that, you're like, oh, Matthew Perry, like, put your hand up. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's Matthew Perry, like at the
Right?
gym. Like,
I know
holy,
what I was like,
yeah.
"Hey!" And then, "Wait, I don't know you." How would I do? I'm just gonna leave my hand up,
uh,
leave it
I
up.
like it.
There was such an innocence about it though, not
Yes,
like a
right.
negative intent,
Yeah,
you know?
for sure.
Same thing with Damon Wayans, like, I just wanted to, like, go say, "Hey, and what's up?" And then,
For
"Why don't
sure.
I come work with you?" You know?
Yes. Heck yeah.
Yeah, like,
That's
let me
so
just I
cool.
mean, honestly, you don't get anything if you don't ask, and
Yes.
I do think even just as I talk about that now, there's something to learn from that younger, like, sort of naive, but, enthusiastic version
Yes.
of me, you know?
Yeah. No, there's something big to take out of that for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So what would be your first on-screen role, Stephanie?
Um, well, technically, my first on-camera role, you did not, um well, yeah, my first on-camera role was not a speaking role, but I played Sarah Palin in a towel on the Jimmy Kimmel Show.
Really? Oh
That
my
was
gosh.
my very first, I literally my wardrobe, they gave it to and it was a towel. And I thought it was so cute that it was on a hanger because
That's
it wasn't like made to look like a towel, it was a towel. And, so I did that in one of his sketches. And then, my first, like, speaking role was, on a show called Free Agents or Free Agent. I can't remember if it was Free Agent or Free Agents, with Hank Azaria, a comedy, and I played a hostess at a restaurant, but I got to work with Hank Azaria.
very cool. Very cool. Would you tell us some other shows, Stephanie, that you've been on and just kind of run through some of that for us?
Sure, Grey's Anatomy, Jane the Virgin, Bold and the Beautiful, General Hospital, Agents of Shield. Truth Be Told, that's a new Apple TV show starring
Oh,
Octavia
cool.
Spencer.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, and The Goldbergs.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah,
Awesome.
yeah.
Do
Um,
you, or I was going to say with that, and you definitely tell some more too, Stephanie, or like of all these, do you have like a favorite role that you've done or a favorite character or anything?
I had a great time on The Goldbergs because, I got to play a 1980s talk show host, and the director let us play. So it wasn't just, let's just get this done, let's do a couple takes for safety, and let's move on. He was making suggestions, and they didn't end up using all of it when in the final cut, but it was just fun that he let us play and that he really trusted me and the other guy who was playing a host with me. And we got to work with Wendy I don't know how to say her last name. I feel really bad. The star of it, Wendy Mcclendon. This is gonna make me look so dumb. The blonde lady.
Okay. Yeah.
She was so lovely, and I feel bad that I'm probably messing up her last name. She was just lovely to work with, and the director was just letting us try things and be cheesy. And she was basically on our talk show showing her cookbook, and I'm like, it's supposed to be like sort of like a cheesy talk show, like public access. So I'm like holding the
Yeah.
cookbook upside down, like showing it to camera upside down. And it was, so that was really fun. And as far as like really switching gears, like another experience for me that was just felt like I was in alignment with my purpose was there's this program um uh that does stages veterans works, um like veteran writers.
Okay.
They bring in actors to uh do like the couple of scenes from a pilot, or a memoir, or whatever it is, a monologue. And I was chosen to do this woman's 10-page memoir. And she was is, not was, she's still around. She is a veteran um, public relations, Army public relations uh, officer. And she served in Baghdad, and her 10 pages was about the challenges of being there, the horrors, the PTSD, the women who were raped behind trailers, the just all the just kind of nightmarish experiences, the loneliness and isolation. And and I spent time on it before, basically, I took the stage and read her memoir, but I had
Wow.
spent days on it, so I knew it. I had it in my
Yeah.
heart. And, when I finished it, she had tears in her eyes, and I felt that feeling of where
Wow.
it's not about me, but I'm just a channel to illuminate someone else's experience, because she's not necessarily equipped or comfortable to stand on stage and say
Yeah.
this, but she gets to be seen through me. And that's really why I do what I do, is to illuminate stories, and not only just for her story to be told, but other people heal from these stories. Other
Yes.
women veterans
Yes.
who may have experienced these kinds of traumas or horrors, like who still have
Yes.
PTSD, um, got to connect with not just that this was hard, but the strength of going through it and getting to the other side. And it just felt very much like the service part of acting. Like I spent a lot of time going over the words, absorbing the words, empathizing, putting myself in her shoes. So when I took the stage, I owned it as my own story, and that's really what empathy is.
Yeah.
And she was able to be seen, and that it just it solidified why I do this. It just gave so much meaning to what I do. And it wasn't about,
Mm.
oh, this is going to be on TV, or,
Yeah.
it wasn't. Although there was an NPR reporter there, and she recorded it, and some of it was on NPR, some of my, reading her memoir. And then the NPR woman said that story impacted her so greatly, and she interviewed myself and Sylvia Bowersox, the woman whose niece it was. And so that was really special too. Like, just it was a real special, like, kind of loving, communal sisterhood experience.
That's incredibly powerful. Like, I mean, I haven't obviously even seen it or heard it, but I feel like I'm kind of right there along for the ride of that. I mean, that sounds absolutely incredible, and how powerful that you were able to give her story voice and life like that. Like, I can only imagine how life-changing that had to have been for her and so many other people. And I can imagine the impact it had on you. That's tremendously powerful.
Yeah,
Tremendous.
I would say that that was probably one of the most meaningful acting experiences I've ever had. Because I mean, ultimately, that's why we do it. Like, yeah, I mean, I'm not going to be mad if someone gives me $1 million or $6 million.
Yeah.
I won't.
Yeah.
Put that on. But you don't get fulfilled by money. You know what I mean? It's like your life has to have meaning. And when we connect, or when we connect with an audience in that way, it's all the same. Whether you're connecting with an audience, whether we're you and me are connecting right now, that's what we're here for.
Yes. That's true. Oof. That's good stuff. That's good stuff, Stephanie. Could you talk right now to anybody listening? And I don't want to limit this to just, advice for someone interested in pursuing acting, but do you have any advice for people listening, Stephanie, that they're interested in performing really in any capacity, but maybe they're nervous to take that first step, or even like, what does that look like for a person? What would you tell them?
I would say if it's in your heart, then that's your answer. Whether you're a spiritual person or not, we don't get desires to do things that we're not meant to do. Like there's sort of gifts from either our inner knowing or from, the universe, God. When we get a desire, we're being given an invitation to give of ourselves. And that fear is a fear of what other people think, and what other people think doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Like each one of us is unique. Each one of us has a unique expression. Each one of us has different experience. Each one of us has something to say, and not just the words, but the tone of voice, our sense of humor, our mannerisms. And that means that you have the capacity to touch and move and inspire someone. And so it's none of your business to hold back. It's your business to give. That's real courage, to just give what's on your heart, give your passions, because people will benefit. And the other thing, if you're scared, just take a class, take baby steps, just start. You don't have to, go right into like being a rock star, overnight.
Yeah, for sure.
Take a guitar class. If you want to write, take a writing class. If you want to act, take an acting class, and be compassionate with yourself, because fear is a normal part of being human. It's like if you're afraid, it's because it matters to you. So trust that fear and know that that means this is something worth doing.
I like it. Powerful words, Stephanie. Thank you. I want to transition gears here a little bit and talk about Catch a Lift with you. How did you first? There we go. You're rocking it. Absolutely.
We're here.
Love it. Stephanie, how did you find out about Catch a Lift?
So, I was looking for ways to save money, and every now and then I remember I'm a veteran.
By the way, side note, yep.
Yeah, and so I mean, sometimes I forget, and I'll hear someone else at a store asking for a veteran discount, and I'm like, can we ask for that?
Me too.
Like,
yeah.
Some people literally ask at every store and every restaurant. That's not me, but but then when they do, I'm like, oh, let me get on board for that.
Yeah.
So I was trying to, budget and cut down. Being an actor is tough and things can be inconsistent. And so I was looking to see if, I think I Googled like veteran gym memberships just to see if there was something there. And through that search, I found Catch a Lift. And this was before the pandemic. So I was interested in possibly getting some help with either my current gym membership or maybe taking some Pilates or yoga classes through Catch a Lift. But then I was on the waiting list, and by the time it was my turn, we were in the pandemic, and I'm no longer working out at the gym. I'm working out at home. So I went on the rabbit hole search of figuring out what equipment I would like.
Yeah. So talk to us a little bit about the home equipment and how that's, well, how has it affected your lifestyle or what has that brought to you?
So I recently got a Treadly, which is the most lovely, adorable treadmill. I know that's not how people talk about
I
treadmills.
know.
It's lovely and it's adorable. Well, I live in a one-bedroom apartment. So if I'm gonna get
Space was going to be an issue.
right, so I
Yeah.
yes, I want equipment, but for me to get, like, a squat rack is like, well, there goes my living room.
Yeah.
Welcome to my squat rack. You know? So, I'd love to have one, but I live in an apartment.
Yeah.
So I was thinking, like, I do free weights in my living room, and I do a lot of long walks, but sometimes I walk late at night, and my good friends are like, "Oh, you shouldn't walk late by yourself." So one of my best friend, Elizabeth, we're coming back to her again. She
Nice. Yeah.
suggested this Treadly, and it's a small treadmill that folds up, so you can either slide it under the couch or put it up against the wall.
That's
So
so cool.
when I'm not using it, I just put it up against the wall, and what's great about it is it's so much easier, especially if I just leave it down, to get, like, 10 minutes of walking
Yeah.
here, there. Even if let's say I got a short workout in and I didn't quite get the calorie burn that I wanted to in, well, later in the day, I could get a little walk in, or I can put something on Netflix and walk while watching, and
Yeah.
so it's just such an easy way to burn more calories, and, because I love walking anyway. I mean, that's what
Yeah.
we're built to do as humans, is walking is one of the
For
most natural
sure.
things. Um, but I'll even, like, skip on it or do, like, what is it called? Like, in a drill where you, like, double step, double time.
Oh, yeah. 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 Okay.
I'll do that because that burns a little more calories than walking,
Yeah.
or skip, because then that gets your heart rate up, and, it doesn't go very fast. It only goes up to 5.0, so you can't sprint on it or anything, but
Yep.
it's great for speed walking, skipping, double timing. Like, I'm trying to show what that is, like, this, I'm
Yeah.
not doing it very well,
I,
but
I know what
basically
you mean. Yeah.
double up, or double up, that will get your heart rate up, so there's, like, but I just love it because, oh, it also has a little Bluetooth, so I can play my music through
Oh,
it.
cool. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so great, and it's such a nice piece of equipment, and I feel so privileged to have gotten it for free. Like, it makes me feel taken care of and supported and encouraged.
That's terrific. I mean, absolutely. We're thrilled that, you're having that experience, that we were able to get that equipment for you, that's beneficial to, your needs, goals, your space, everything like that. And I remember when David first told me like about the Treadly, and I'm like, what is a Treadly? I'm like, you got to show me this. He's like, it's really compact. I'm like, whoa, that is like the coolest thing ever.
It's so thin, but it's so nice, and it's perfect for I would never think to get a treadmill, you
Yeah,
know?
right.
But this is, um, it's a miniature, and when I say miniature, people are gonna be like, "How do I run on a miniature treadmill?" No, it's
Yeah.
full, like, it's just thin.
Yeah.
It's the running space is like the full
Yeah.
width, but, like, it's thin. It's not like a big bulky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's incredible, and so, we're so very happy that we were able to support you in that way.
Thank you.
Um, Stephanie, if you don't mind, would you touch on a little bit and just like, fitness in general and how it's been beneficial in kind of like an emotional wellness standpoint for you?
Um, yeah, fitness has been my baseline. It's been the baseline of my life for the last few years. And when I use the word baseline, I'm kind of talking about, like, in music where, you have, like your drums or whatever it is that's keeping the bass rhythm down of
Yes.
the piece. Uh, what exercise has done for me is, getting in shape has increased my self-confidence. Getting a workout in every day gives me a victory. when I might not have any other victories that day,
Yeah.
or I
Right.
might be going through a rough patch where I haven't booked work, or some dude I was in love with broke up with me. Or, there's
Yes.
times that are very difficult, and it seems like when you wake up, there isn't something to get excited about. And that sounds bad, rising to the occasion of working out and finishing a workout gives me this sense of accomplishment that then feeds the rest of my day. And it makes me feel really strong and good about myself. And then also I get endorphins, so it
Yeah.
actually, like, if I'm in a slouchy mood,
Yeah.
is that a thing, a slouchy mood? If
I
you're
think it's definitely a thing.
in a slouchy mood, and then I work out, I suddenly have more energy. And also I think, just in terms of when you exercise and you are in better shape, I can only speak for myself. I don't want to project that. When I exercise and I'm in better shape, I'm more self-confident.
Yeah.
Both for how I look and also because I know that I'm a person who's consistent, and knowing that about myself makes me feel good about me.
Absolutely. No, I completely get that and resonate with so much of that. I mean, it looks different on everybody, right? Fitness and how it performs. But I mean, it certainly is. And that's a good way to put it. It's definitely my baseline too. I get that. And I think, a lot of our Cal veteran athletes would really feel that too. It's that, it's that drum beat, keeping that rhythm of our day and keeping us anchored. It's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing. Um, I have one more question for you yet today, Stephanie. What does it mean to you to be a Catch a Lift Fund veteran athlete?
It means, yeah.
Heck yeah, it means yeah.
Uh, it makes me feel privileged. It makes me feel grateful. Uh, yeah, that there's support, that I'm being thanked for my service, that even when times are tough, I'm still receiving gifts from the universe. Like, I have this beautiful little treadmill that was just a gift, and
Yeah,
so and I also love that it connects me to a community of veterans, because
yeah,
I love veterans. I love, eh, just anybody who's been in the service. I feel an immediate connection to, and it's not even like I have to think about it. It's just like, it's almost like in some ways we're the same species.
for sure. Yeah, that's a
Yeah,
good way to put it.
yeah, yeah, like, I mean, all species have all different personalities.
Yes.
In that regard, like, we've been acculturated in a certain way, and,
Yeah.
um, we've volunteered to do something. Everyone in the service, at least, not necessarily, well, not Vietnam veterans, not all of them, but, more,
Yeah.
recent veterans, they volunteered. We volunteered, and so
Yep.
I think there's something special about a person who was willing to take that chance.
Absolutely. This has been a lot of fun, Stephanie. Thank you
Yes.
so very much for your time today and sharing your story and your light with us all. Wow, absolutely incredible. Thank you for your service. That's it for this week's episode of Coach's Corner. We will return next Wednesday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time with another new episode. Thank you again, Stephanie, for sharing your story and your light with us all today. It was absolutely terrific. Thank you to ID Technologies for your support of this podcast and all things Catch a Lift. Thank you to Lynn Coughlin, Henry Pomper, and Kaylee Nasiri for all of the work you do to make this podcast possible week after week. And we thank the entire Catch a Lift team. Don't forget to join us every Wednesday live at 1 p.m. Eastern on YouTube for a chance to win Cal swag and a chat with your brothers and sisters. Until next week, keep it real and stay Cal strong.